Hello and welcome to episode 47. And we've got a very interesting guest in today, somebody that I think sits on both sides of the fence. He's part entrepreneur, part next gen in a family office, and he's also part investor. And I think his story is something uniquely interesting, because it starts in Bombay, it goes all the way from here to the US, Mexico, and then back to Mumbai, back to a factory floor. And now, he's here with us talking about a project that he's launched during COVID and how that project has scaled pan India without having any physical presence. So, without further ado, I would love to introduce Dhruv Toshniwal from Banswara Syntex and the Pant project. Welcome, Dhruv.
Hey Anirudh, how's it going? Thanks for having me on here and really excited for the chat.
Man, I have been looking forward to this episode. As you know, we've made a bit of a schedule change. We're only doing two episodes a month now, so we can have more meaningful and deeper conversations. And you're actually the first person since we've made the schedule change. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation that I'm looking forward to. Dhruv, why don't for the for the purposes of the audience here, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey uh, up to Banswara Syntax.
Sure, yeah. So, born and raised in Bombay, went cathedral, went the US for my undergrad. So I actually studied at Wharton, background in finance. And I think reason for doing that is really finance backbone of every business. So always been interested in business, come from a business family that's got 45 years of experience in manufacturing of textiles. And spent 8 years abroad. Was away from 2009 to 2017. Really, saw both the direct-to-consumer brand revolution in the US. Lived that firsthand, and gained work experience. As a management consultant at Oliver Wyman, working in fintech at a bank in Latin America, and then came back to India 4 years ago, both to join the family business and then to do something on my own.
So, you know, see, a kid from Cathedral, South Bombay kid, right? I mean, all of us are supposed to be very, very privileged in many ways. Then you go off to Wharton. I mean, this is the perfect roadmap never to come back to India, right? Like, this is exactly how, how things have rolled. But, you know, what was it? What was it like, working in New York and working in Mexico that eventually you thought, you know what, I need to bring this back to India. I need to bring it
Yeah,
back
man.
to Mumbai.
I don't know, the opportunity in India this decade and the coming decade is just too big to pass up on. And it's something I've seen with a lot of my friends that went to Wharton. Initially we may have thought of not coming back or may have considered working as professionals. But when you look at India, it's just such an exciting place to be. Initial transition back's always difficult, but once you're here with, as you said, the networks and the infrastructure that we have, the opportunity to do something at a large scale and make a difference was the big draw to come back. I think from a macro and demographics perspective too, India is just an exciting market to be back in, such a deep market, and with digital penetration increasing, every day, market that's only growing. So that was the motivation really to come back.
And interestingly, I mean, you spent some time in Mexico before you actually made the move back. So, and for even though it's part of North America, Mexico is probably the struggling cousin of the other two. What was it like working there for 3 years at Banco Compartmentos, if I said it
Yeah,
right?
I can tell you some of the most interesting years of my life, like living in uh, foreign country. I was working almost 100% in Spanish.
Wow.
Yeah, working in a completely different language. I think early 20s is the time to do that sort of stuff. And I think the more you get out of your comfort zone in your early 20s, the more prepared you are for the challenges that entrepreneurship in your 30s can throw at you. So you're grateful for those years of being completely outside my comfort zone. And definitely a lot of learnings too. Mexico as an economy very much more similar to India than the US, and a great way to transition back from New York to India via Mexico.
And interestingly, I mean, you obviously come from a background where you would say a bit privileged in that sense. The parents owning a business, but you working in Mexico must not have really excited your parents much, right? Or
I
because
think, yeah.
it says 14 to 17 wasn't a great time for Mexico.
No, I think they could tell that I was really excited about the opportunity. I had the opportunity to work very closely with the CEO of the bank there. I'd actually gone on a 6 month project. I was a consultant at Oliver Wyman in New York. I was doing typical projects, consulting for Wall Street, and had an opportunity to do 6 months in Latin America. Wanted to use my Spanish skills. Just fell in love with that place, and had a really good mentor there. And I think early on
Okay.
in your career, really having a great mentor is what matters. Just wanted to gain experience, as a professional independently, have a great mentor and learn how, businesses run at scale before coming back to the family business. And I think, those experiences, even though in a different context, definitely hold in good stead.
So what was it? So 4 years, you had your time in Mexico, you had your time in New York. So what was the trigger that you decided, you know what, now I'm ready. I think it's time to go back and
Yeah,
take over
I'd
this.
been away from for 8 years. I felt, past a certain point in time, the longer you're away, the harder it is to come back. And so
Mhm.
had a fair share of experiences about it. And I thought, do I want to settle down in Mexico or the US for the rest of my life? No. And so, it's time to make the move back. And I think also coming back, it does take time to transition back into, the way in India works. And that's why, as soon as I came back, the first thing we did is like get down to ops in the factory and really just learning how our family business works, at the operational level. And I think that first year, really getting down deep into manufacturing operations for a textile operation was invaluable learning experience.
And you still chose to come back. I mean, it was a 40-year-old family textile manufacturing unit. Nothing as you would call very sexy. Uh, and you were working in microfinance. You're working obviously in Mexico, doing some pretty cool stuff. Did you think about like coming back to India and say, you know what, maybe the family business is not for me. I want to go do something more in fintech or something. And startups at that time were really taking off, and OU was just getting going. But did you ever
Yeah,
think that, this is, maybe I just want to stay there? I mean, I want to stay in this space.
definitely considered it, but as I said, the opportunity was too large to pass up, and I thought there were a lot of areas we could contribute to, within the family business, and I also thought, using that infrastructure and helping grow that to the next level was something that I was uniquely positioned to do, as opposed to going into fintech or doing something else that I think a lot of other people could have done.
And like you said, you went straight to the ops floor. So where is your factory located?
So our factory is actually located in Banswara. That's where the name of the company comes from, Banswara Syntex. It's a small town in Rajasthan. In between, closest big city would be Udaipur or Baroda. And we've been there since 1976. Started as a spinning operation, manufacturing yarn, and then my father joined the business. It got into fabric manufacturing. His brother joined. They got into garment manufacturing, and now my brother and I have come in, and we're taking it to the next level of vertical integration with retail, direct to consumer.
So you started out on the factory for what reason though? Why did you
I
think that,
think
because you could have just come and sat in the nice office that you've got.
I think it was
uh,
integral to understand, how the business operates. And I think there's nothing like getting your hands dirty in the factory for really understanding how it operates. So that I think the mindset was, before we come in with preconceptions, and I think this is for anyone who's joining a family business. You've lived it, you've seen it, but you've seen it from a distance. You've never really been in it, and you come back with some preconceptions of how things should be done based on your experience away, and you also don't have a deep enough understanding of how things are actually currently done. So I think the idea was first to understand how things are being done now, before suggesting ways in which we think we could do them better.
so do you have any stories from that time, coming from a US background,
Yeah,
and like you were like, okay,
definitely.
wow, this is crazy.
Definitely a lot of them, but I think one of the first insights we had is we used to spend a lot. When we manufacture yarn, fabric, and garment, a lot of our fabric ends up going to Vietnam or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka to be manufactured into a garment and then sold to the UK and US. And one of the insights was, we spend a lot of time talking to our end customers in the US and UK or abroad. We spend a lot of time working on our operations at our factory, but maybe we don't spend enough time with our garment partners in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, in Vietnam. And so the first thing I did after understanding how our operations work is work on improving our relationships with and building a stronger supply chain in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Vietnam. So that as a manufacturer, when we're selling something to an end client like a brand like Marks and Spencer in the UK, it doesn't matter if the fabric comes out of our factory and the garment out of a factory in Vietnam. To the end client, it's a seamless experience.
I see. I see. And then, so at what moment did how much time did you spend, by the way, in
So I
Banswara?
spent, and I still do work with the family business, but I spent, 2 years completely immersed in it.
Wow.
And I think, yeah, by the third year, both my brother Udit is
That must have been a
co-founder.
big change, though, like the hustle and bustle of New York and Mexico straight to Banswara, like a small town in Rajasthan, supremely hot, supremely cold, and very little infrastructure.
Yeah, definitely a huge change. But again, as I told you, it's way out of my comfort zone in Mexico. So definitely more in my comfort zone here. And no, I think 2 years in is when my brother and I, felt the direct to consumer opportunity in India was going to be too large to pass up on, and we felt like the improvements we were making in the family business we could continue to make, but it's a very professionally run family business, and we felt that our contribution would be greater setting up a new business as opposed to trying to marginally improve the existing business full time.
So, and I have an interesting set of questions with this transition and obviously your brother coming in, but let me take Vaibhav's question very quickly here. So, Vaibhav Lakhotia, he asks, what was the transition like from corporate life to working in the family business?
Yeah, I can tell you there's pros and cons to both. And I think the number one thing that was very liberating about working in the family business is there's deep trust, and there's sort of more transparency and openness to really candidly talking about what's working and what's not working. And interests are all directly aligned. Everyone wants the business to do the best, and I think that freedom that came from being able to have really candid conversations was definitely something that I really valued. I think with corporate life, you're often provided a lot of structure. Here, it's your job to create that. So that's definitely one of the other differences. And I
You know,
think in terms of career
if I can,
trajectory too, right? Like you're charting yours here versus it being charted for you.
so I met your dad, and your dad is a very stylish and a very, I would say it's a very, very uh, well thought out guy. Like he thinks everything through when he's speaking. And I wanted to ask you, like, when you came back, right? And you're obviously a third generation entrepreneur. I'm fourth gen, and there is a challenge, right, coming up, and then having your own thoughts and dealing with that with your dad, who probably still thinks of you as a kid that he just sent to the US. So how do you, what are the challenges and what are the opportunities when you come from a background where you've gone outside, you come back, and now you got to work with your father, but you're no longer a father-son relationship in the office. It's probably closer to boss and apprentice, for that matter.
Yeah, firstly, you got to earn your chops in any business. So I think starting off that was the reason for also starting off in ops and on the understanding how the business works. From a dynamics perspective too, I think I've been fortunate. Very open relationship with all the members of the family that we work with. So I think I had it fairly easy in that sense.
And so, what would your advice be? Let's say that there is somebody watching this show, or
You know,
either live or
I've thought about this. I mean, I'm not sure. Yeah, because I'm not. I worked abroad for a long time before coming back, and that served me. My brother, worked away for a year and came
correct.
straight back. and that's worked very well for him too. So I think it's a really personal choice. I don't think there's any one formula to get work experience outside and then come back or not. And I think every family and business's dynamics and stage is different too. I think it's hard to give any very specific advice here.
So, and what do you think then, Dhruv, is your most enormous responsibility today as part of the Banswara family?
Yeah, I think it is to keep pushing the boundary on doing something new and innovative. So I think when you come into an established structure, there's enough people who can run the ship steadily as it's running. And it's sort of the new generation's responsibility. They say with most third generation businesses, the third generation is where the business either dies or then makes it to being a business that lasts many generations. And I think that's your most enormous responsibility. Make sure you have enough new initiatives in the pipeline that you are doing things that grow the business more than just incrementally, and then B, to let the show keep running, but make sure you stir up the kettle often enough.
So when did you realize that it's time to start steering the Banswara ship into more startup friendly waters?
As I said, I think it was a couple of years ago. Pandemic
But
definitely had us step on the accelerator on that.
but we met
we
about a year before that, I believe,
yeah. So
and I think you were already thinking that.
exactly. We started thinking about it, and it was definitely something that had been on our minds maybe 3 years ago, maybe
Mhm.
since a year since I've been back, and I think we started dabbling in very small projects and started saying, and I think that's the right way to go about it. First, start dabbling and see, what's going to work and what's not. But I think the pandemic really accelerated it, and Pant projects really where we found, first product market fit instantly. So I'd say it was a couple of years of experimentation before, hitting the nail on the head.
And before even the Pan project, you have a project also called the Answer Fashion, right?
Yeah, so
So
Answer
what
is a
was that?
curated marketplace. We initially launched it as just a clothing brand. It was
Mhm.
trying to be an Everlane of India. Realized soon that that may have been too niche a category, and it's expanded into being a curated marketplace now. It sells lifestyle product, jewelry, kids, pets, home, and that's a project we launched a couple of years ago. And it's a sort of example of experiments that we run and will continue to run, that over time will pay dividends. I think Udit too launched UA Mumbai, which is luxury wedding wear brand, and it's a sort of ideas of building brand that we've been thinking about for the last few years that resulted in these experiments that have now led to being small businesses.
And this was your first venture with your brother,
It
right?
was my first venture with my brother,
What was that like?
and no, it's been really fun. I think we come with very complementary skill sets, so that's been easy. He's a creative. He went. Oh, that's a nice picture you filled up there. Yeah, he's a creative. He went to art school at School of the Arts in Institute of Chicago. He's the true fashion guy. He's got the product experience, and he's the creative. The marketing brain behind all of these brands. Fairly easy split of responsibilities there. I look at the business aspects, tech, ops, and he looks at creative product and marketing.
And how did you guys decide on areas like finance, or things like, okay, what's the next uh, iteration, or what's the next pivot that we need to make?
Um, you talk in terms of role split or
Role, yeah, or just like, because both of you guys are also the managers or the founders of the business, right? But also share a relationship outside the business as brothers, and you being the older one, right? So how do you guys come up with, okay, this is, if there's a point of disagreement, how do you guys
yeah, I think
bridge the
it's
gap?
more competence based. It's who's most suited to which area, and that's how we split roles. In terms of disagreements, we've hired out a professional team to, at the Pan project, we've got you know competent folks in there that when we do disagree, we go to the merit of the idea. Trying to run this as an idea meritocracy. where truly the best idea is the one that's tried out, and we often agree to disagree. The way we've resolved most of these is, hey, you think it works this way, I think it works this way. Why don't we both try it, and make sure the cost of a failed experiment is as low as possible, and yeah, uh, you know, see which idea works better.
What is one experiment where both of you guys could not agree on, and
I
how
can
did you
I
get
can tell
started?
you one where I was blatantly wrong. Launching cargo pants as a category on Pant Project. I used to think, why would someone want custom made cargo pants? Cargo pants is casual pant category.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Udit, after having listened to a lot of customers, was like, you don't understand. Like, customers have been asking for places to store their phone and wallet and
Yep.
keys, and they just want a utility pant that has a lot of pockets and is really functional, and they want to personalize it. Like, they want a monogram on it and they want to personalize it. What do we lose? Let's launch this and let's see how it works. And it's ended up being one of our best-selling categories. It's like 30% of our sales at the moment.
Wow,
So
30%
yeah,
is cargo pants. That is
exactly.
unbelievable.
And would never have expected that.
And maybe it's a great time to segue into what started the Pant project. I know we've discussed it, but for people that are listening in and witnessing this, like, you've got Answer. It's gaining some traction. You've got yourself a brand there, and then you decided that, okay, we have to branch out further and do this thing called the Pant project. So what is the Pant project, and how did you come up with the idea, and how did you get started?
Yeah, so Pant Project is custom made e-tailer. Came up with the idea. Firstly, time spent in the US. Really look up at Bonobos as a company that does this very well and did this very well in the US. They ended up selling to Walmart for like 300 million.
Wow.
Came back to India. Didn't see anyone really making custom made pants. Personally, case where I struggled to find pants that fit me well. I'm an in between size, really large thighs, and from personal need, market opportunity too. Not seeing anyone really serving this need in the market at the moment, and capabilities in our business to execute this, better than most could go about doing it. So that's how we came up with the idea of the Pant project.
Around the same time, the Bombay Shirts company was also launching pants, right? And was there, any kind of thought that
Yeah, so
they're much bigger, they're much, obviously much better known. Like, how do we compete with something like that?
yeah, so early days we actually even experimented, doing pants with the Bombay Shirt Company. I
I
think
see.
we did it. We did trials together for a year before we launched the Pant project, and I think Bombay Shirt Company decided to go more of the jeans route, with Cora jeans, and we decided to launch Pant project independently. But honestly, I know these markets are so large. I think custom made is such a small part of the market right now. I think the bigger opportunity is getting more people to shop custom made, as opposed to within custom made makers, being concerned that someone else is launching it. You could have a handful of brands launch custom made, and we'd still be a fraction of the market compared to either shopping with your traditional tailoring experience, which is really the experience we're looking to disrupt. Where you have to go to a tailor, get measured, have a trial, or shopping off the rack, where you really wouldn't get your own size and fit.
True. So, the Answer project was more on a B2B kind of a scale, right? And then you move from there to D2C, right? What was this a thought through shift, or was it something that you said, what, maybe it's time to go to the other side?
Um, I think we thought D2C would be a natural evolution for the business. I think the data that you get from being that close to the customer is invaluable, and we thought about that right from 3 years ago. I think we just didn't know how to do it. Our background came more from manufacturing, and
I
even
see.
at the Pampa, you say product is our strongest element. Very confident in delivering like a really high quality product, and something we've learned over time is being able to tell that story to consumers, and also direct consumer experience of serving customers, and giving them that delightful experience.
What's interesting about the Pant project, and I'm actually the proud owner of a Pant project, Pant. was like the price point is not what you would call affordable, right? And what I mean by that is you're pricing these things between 3,000 to 6,000 rupees a pant, but what we've discovered, you're selling these across India. So this is not an urban pant, but it definitely would not come in the affordable category. You're not competing with the pantaloons of the world, which are probably selling in the sub 2,000 rupee range. Like, it's a very interesting pricing point. What were you trying to achieve? What was the ideal customer you were going for?
Yeah, one, we looked at international brands and saw that there was a dearth of options equivalent to international brands in India. Marks and Spencer, Levi's, uh, Calvin Klein, Zara, where a lot of folks shop, and then legacy brands in India, that were serving, as you said, through traditional channels. And the idea is, to offer quality pants at premium pricing, but mass premium, or affordable in the sense of being value for money, for the quality of product we're offering. Not hyper tailored at a 10,000 rupee luxury price point. And
Yeah.
shocked as to how deep the market is in India for that. As you said, about 40% of our orders come from tier two cities,
Hmm.
and some of our most loyal customers are from tier two cities. So definitely encouraged there by initial traction and response, from the market.
Tell me how you solve this. 40% of your customer base is in tier two cities. You launched the PAN project during the pandemic, and you offer customized pants online, which means they obviously there isn't one size fits all. How do you make sure that whenever you deliver the pant, it actually fits?
Yeah, there's a lot of things behind that. I think one, from a customer sizing perspective, we've tried to build out tools where customers can either measure themselves, or tell us what brand they typically shop, what size they are, answer a few questions in a quiz, and then we try to get their size, give them options of fit, slim, tapered, or relaxed, and then we make each pant to the specifications of the customer's order. I think we get it right 85 to 90% of the time, first time right. And something we've done is offer free alterations for clients that we don't get it right for the first time. And so there's 10% of clients who'll end up sending the pants back to us. We'll make the
I
minor
see.
adjustments that they require and send it back to them. So it's not like we get it right every single time, but we get it right 9
But
out of 10.
99, yeah, 99, 90% is really, really good, right? It's really up there. So, and these pants obviously are customized. So I'm guessing you take all the money up front and you're delivering the pant.
We do both. No, we do both COD and prepaid, and I think that's a reality of the Indian market. I think you lose a lot of customers if you didn't offer COD. I think it's also a trust factor. We're a new brand, and we see this often. A lot of clients will buy COD on the first order, and then when they repeat and they trust you as a brand, then they'll prepay. We also have a cap of 10,000 rupees for COD orders on our site. And so we see most of the large orders, 4, 5, 6 pants being prepaid.
Oh, I see. Interesting. And like in terms of reaching out to this customer, or how what are the channels that you're utilizing to reach out to customers that are looking for pants?
Yeah, so we're a digital native brand, really heavy on social, Insta, Facebook, and then from a paid ads perspective, Google too. And something we did as a decision, early on in the brand too, is we signed Rishabh Pant as our brand ambassador in April, and that's 6 months into the brand journey. I think most brands don't sign a celebrity that early into the brand journey, but some of the reasons for doing that is we felt very confident that we had product market fit. Initial data from customers on repeats was very encouraging. At a high rate, almost 1 in 3 customers coming back and shopping with us again within 6 months of having placed an order. And that really encouraged us to go out there and take a big bet on Rishabh as the brand ambassador. Also felt, as a personality, he's fearlessly confident. Not your standard size athlete,
Yeah.
and yeah.
So, in fact, there's a very interesting question from Don Donthini. I'm sorry if I have pronounced that incorrectly. But the question is, what was your go-to market strategy?
Yeah, so as I said, first strategy was digital native. We'd initially thought, would you need experience centers? Would you need a store? We said, first, digital native, the opportunity here is to build a brand that can disrupt the way traditional tailoring is done. We launched this with a website and an Instagram account, and go to market was only on pantproject.com. And something we did consciously was, only launch on pantproject.com. We're still not on any other marketplace. And the reason for that was we really wanted to understand the customer, control the experience of every single customer, and at least for our first 5,000 or 10,000 customers, serve them through our own channels, and really make sure they have the best brand experience from start to finish. That was a conscious
That's a very
decision.
interesting. That's a very interesting point that you bring up. That you decided not to use channels. You decided to go direct, because most founders, and you're an investor yourself, so you are aware. Usually want to go to channels first rather than direct, right? It's almost
Yeah,
an aversion because they want to sell as quickly as possible.
I think when you're starting out, the most important thing is to really understand who your customer is and what their needs are. And the best way to do that is really to do it on your own channels. I think it depends product category wise too. I think FMCG probably lends itself more to, uh, being across physical retail or other channels. But as much as you can do on your own website or direct to consumer initially, the more insights you're going to have from interacting with customers.
And so then, how do these three brands, or the three companies that you've got Answer, you've got the Pan Project, and Banswara, how are they now coexisting with each other?
Yeah, so we set up Pant Project and Answer as separate entities. I think a very conscious decision there to keep them separate from Banswara. I think the DNA of a B2C business is very different from the DNA of a B2B business, and that was the reason for having them be separate. Maintain also small startup entrepreneurial culture in Pant Project and Answer, and have some stability in Banswara and the way that's run. So we run them as separate businesses. And I think initially it spent a lot more time on Banswara, and now spending more and more time on Answer and Pan Project. And I think Pan Project's the one that's scaling the fastest at the moment, and the one that I'm spending increasingly more time on. Very excited for what lies ahead there.
So how do you think you're leveraging the core strength of the family business now?
I think one of the core strengths is our fabrics, and something Banswara has always been known for is fabric innovation. We're the first to put stretch into fabric in India in the 1990s. We've been exporting to brands like Levi's and Calvin Klein, Zara, H&M, Marks and Spencer since the 90s. So I'd say fabric innovation. Fabric's something that's at the core of our DNA, and fabrics at the core of our DNA in Pan Project too. And I think the supply chain, being vertically integrated, really lets us be both, flexible in terms of what we launch, and quick to adapt to the market. So
So when you started, was there a limit that you set, that that this is the cost of this experiment, and we're not going to go over this. If we run out of this money, we are we're stopping the experiment, whether it was the Pan Project or Answer. Was there any
yeah,
kind of thought process over there?
yeah, definitely. We definitely put down an amount and said, this is an amount that we can afford to experiment with, and I think that's important to do for any business that's been down generations, and say, we're going to give it our all, but it needs to be a significant enough runway. I don't think you can get into this and say, I'm going to try it for a year, and if it works, I won't do it. If it doesn't work, I won't do
Hmm.
it. Some of these experiments do need multiple years to really kick in, and so I'd say, uh, give it 1,000 days at least, and after that you can you know uh, uh, make a more educated guess as to whether this is going to work or not. You'll
So
obviously
I'm going to
have
go a bit.
indicators along the way.
So I'm going to go a bit off script now, and we're going to talk a little bit about how are you recruiting people into the Pan Project. This is eventually a family owned entity, or owned by
No,
both
so
of
as
you
I
guys.
said,
Yeah.
yeah, Pan Project is separate, and that sort of made it easier to attract different sorts of talent. But when you're saying how are we recruiting folks, we've been fortunate to recruit a high quality team from different industries and backgrounds. So Our CFO is ex McDonald's, and our customer care team experience from Tata Click. You know, we've got marketing folks in who worked at agencies before. We've really recruited a fairly diverse team, and I think for us it's been more recruiting based on skill set and attitude. And I think we've really focused on recruiting a young team that has the desire to build a D2C brand with a customer focused vision, as opposed to going and hiring based on more of a legacy CV, like you would in a traditional corporate.
So are you at some point expecting to raise money at the Pan project level? Like, what's the future plans there?
Yeah, it's definitely something we've considered, and in the process of evaluating. But as a business too, I think it's a really interesting business, and we bootstrapped it to date. Unit economics are great, and business that we've been happy to bootstrap. I think reason to raise would be more so to attract the best tech talent, and also marketing talent in terms of being able to tell a story with direct to consumer experience. But reasons to say bootstrapped would be it's a great business, and you'd want to continue growing it profitably.
And you said something very interesting earlier, Dhruv, that with the Pan project we've achieved product market fit, right? And you didn't say the same thing for Answer. So how do you measure product market fit
Yeah, I
for
think
yourself?
there's one strong indicator of product market fit is repeat customer rate. So if you've
Hmm.
got a third of your customers coming back, and also in terms of behavior, right? They're buying one pant first, and then they're buying 3 or 4 pants. Then you're giving them something that adds value to their lives. I think with Answer, we've experimented, and there's areas in which we've achieved product market fit. I think our pets category, our home categories, jewelry categories, customers have really liked the offering, but I think we're still experimenting with really nailing down the value proposition there. And
So go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, so I said I think one, repeat customer rate, and two, organic sales growing, rate of growth of organic sales. I think those two have been the biggest indicators.
So and for obviously for that to happen, you have to be regularly checking into your numbers and your KPIs. So how often do you and Udit get together, and how often you guys going through the numbers, and do
Yeah,
you
well,
involve your father at any point in these discussions?
so Udit and I obviously look at it much more closely. We look at it. I look at it on a daily, weekly basis. Udit looks at them with me more structured manner on a monthly basis. I think we show them to Dad every quarter.
I see.
He's more of a investor in the ventures, and not as actively involved in running them. Um, but that's how, yeah, we've gone about it.
Interesting. It'd be very interesting to see what kind of investors you're going to get, because I think there's going to be some very strong D2C, funds that would be very interested because a very differentiated kind of a product. But I would like to also see some, see which kind of family offices you would come on board, especially the families that would probably have a more retail, more textile kind of background. I definitely see some synergies over there. Have you got like some sort of like a dream list? These are, if I'm going to raise money, these are the top three guys I want to raise money from.
You're talking in terms of consumer. I think we got some great consumer investors in this country. I think DSG, really high quality
Hmm.
investors. I think Sequoia does a great job. I think Matrix has done a great job. I think there's a whole list though of good consumer investors. And I think from a family office perspective, I haven't really explored that too deeply, but uh, I'm sure, as you said, families with deep consumer experience could be of value.
So what's the future now? Like, any plans of offline retail for the Pant project? Obviously you've got a fantastic star in Rishabh Pant. Looks like he's going to play for India at least for the next 5 to 7 years, as long as he stays, fit and healthy. Uh, and because of his mass appeal, there's definitely a opportunity to open more offline retail stores and really grow this thing.
Yeah, I think for now, focused on purely digital, growing fast online, and happy to continue to grow online. I think somewhere down the road, we may have physical stores, but for now it's only online. I think for now it's just continue to launch more product. I think we have a few exciting launches in the pipeline. You don't want to give away too much yet, but we've got some interesting launches from here to the end of the year. So really looking forward to that, and then just looking forward to continue serving more and more customers, custom made, pants. I think there's long runway to go there. Long runway.
Fantastic. Before we get into the next section, though, I want to take a question from Ganesh, who's also been on the Money Talks in the past, and somebody that Dhruv, you and I both know. Ganesh asks a very interesting question. He goes, "What do you enjoy more, supply chain and manufacturing operations, as experienced in Banswara Syntex, or D2C marketing in the brand project, and why?"
Very different roles. I think I enjoy both, but from a challenge perspective, I definitely think the D2C marketing and PAN project's a new challenge, and something that I've immersed myself in the past few years, in the past few months, very past year very actively, and it's definitely a challenge I'm really enjoying. I think the supply chain and manufacturing, there's a lot of professionals there to help with, and so I think that's a little. My life is made a little easier there than at Pan Project, where we're a smaller team and a lot of things, younger startup, a lot of things to be figured out. I enjoy that dynamism.
And I think I have a follow up to that. You obviously have these two startups, and which is a complex thing to run by itself. And then you've got Banswara, which is a listed company, right? And we'll talk a little bit about how you're doing your family office investing. So how do you balance all of this together, Dhruv? There's like each one of them would require a different, kind of characteristic, different kind of quality. You've got high growth, you've got B2B marketplace, you've got this listed company, you've got a family office. How do you switch modes?
Yeah, I think the only way to do it is to have really good teams around you. And I think, I've been fortunate that I'm surrounded by, really talented folks. So I think, hiring really good people and surrounding yourself with them is the only way you can end up, leveraging your ability to the maximum. And from a, you know, managing time between ventures perspective, I think you end up allocating more time to the venture that needs you the most, or put them on an impact and time required matrix, and just go for what's going to yield the highest impact.
But sometimes it's not that easy, right? Because obviously it's a lot easier to think that we could put this on a chart, but something might not be struggling but really running. Do you put your focus there, or something that you're like, I have to get this done, or this is going to get stuck?
Yeah, I think
At
urgent versus important. Try to focus on the important more so than the urgent. But some things you have to get done that you just get done.
So good. I think it's a good segue now to talk about your experience now investing in startups. Let's talk about the other hat, besides the three that you've been wearing. You've been a prolific investor. You've written and
I
very
wouldn't say
focused.
prolific. You're the prolific one there. They've done minor, like a fraction of the deals you've done. But yeah, definitely enjoy
Well,
it.
I do this thing full time, right? You're already running three ventures. I just run one thing full time. But a very interesting set of companies. And I've also heard so much about the kind of investing and the kind of support you're providing founders, from the founders that obviously are dealing with you and have also thankfully come to me, and I've had a chance to possibly invest and co-invest with you. So what are the areas that you're investing in as a family office now, like
Yeah, I'd say
Banswara?
thesis for us is direct to consumer brands, and then enablers of direct to consumer brands. So by enablers, I mean any business that's powering a direct to consumer brand. right from the supply chain to the ops, performance marketing software, anything that's powering e-commerce. Very similar thesis in that sense to what you're doing at Artha,
Mhm.
and that's where we see a lot of alignment, in ideology.
So when you were deciding the investment strategy for the family office, like what was the split between startups and listed and, let's say, fixed income?
Oh, I think startups is a small percentage just been pushing to increase that allocation more and more. But it's been fairly traditional, large part listed and fixed like large part listed real estate, fixed income, smaller part startups. Just started 3 years ago investing in startups, so definitely something where ramping up slowly, but very bullish on for this decade. I think some amazing companies going to be built out of India in the next 10 years, especially in
So
the in the in the direct to consumer end.
what are the companies that you've invested in so far?
Done a few, done Maze, which is a Mexican fast casual restaurant. I've done a couple of food deals actually. Tags Food, Pop Chips
Hmm.
Company. With Ganesh on the show at Alcatron, one that we're getting through. And then looked at investing with funds too.
And what is the criteria? I mean, I know the fund bit will talk and may not be as relevant, but when you're choosing a founder, when you're thinking about, like for example, meeting a Ganesh or meeting the founder of Tags, what are you looking for in them?
Yeah, one obviously deep passion and commitment for the space that they're building. You want someone who's going to have that resilience to be in this through the good days and the bad, and
Hmm.
then obviously you want someone who you think is going to be able to attract the right team to execute over the long run. And from a startup perspective, I think trying to find a company that's onto something that has some traction with consumers.
And usually, how are founders reaching out to you?
Um, so mix of LinkedIn, email. We've actually got someone on board. Been helping us this year. Ankit has been helping us with our family office portfolio on the startup front. So they've been reaching out, there. But I think best way to reach me is just LinkedIn inbox me or email me at Dhruv Tosh at Banswara Syntex. Probably the best.
Dhruv Tosh, DHRUVTOSH at Banswara, BANSWARA, Syntex.com. Is that right?
That's it.
Guys, could we make sure that we put this out also in the comments section so that people can email Dhruv? And so Dhruv, I mean, I've got a fairly huge amount of questions left, but I wanted to understand from your side. Is there what's one thing that you think uh, founders today, most of the guys that you're meeting, probably need to have as they navigate the challenges of growing in a hyper competitive market and a price conscious market as India?
Um, I think ability to tell a compelling story. I think the market, as you said, as it gets increasingly competitive, the great founders are going to be the ones that can tell very compelling stories digitally, and I
Hmm.
think then back those stories up with delivering on product and customer experience. But I think it's going to get increasingly more crowded to compete for people's attention, and so the ability to tell a compelling story is going to be a differentiator for a large number of companies.
And if you could think of three things you could tell a founder that is probably starting out, especially in your space, what are three things they should avoid, right, for the first, let's say, the first 18 to 24 months?
Yeah, taking huge bets on inventory. Don't go out and like book a ton of product without having tested it with clients, and start small, iterate as opposed to just doing
That's a
that.
very, very
Uh,
important lesson.
yeah, I think cash flow. Like, don't go out and just spend. Like, if you raise money or if you have a certain amount of money put out, give yourself that time to put that out. So take a lot of small bets. Don't just go out and take one big bet. and sort of blow it. And I think in terms of hiring too, I think either startups fall into the trap of hiring too slowly or hiring too fast,
Mhm.
but getting that rhythm right on hiring the team just as it's required, definitely something that's an art.
And according to you, what are the first maybe two positions to hire, or maybe the first three
It
positions to hire?
depends on the background that the founder comes from.
Hmm.
But as I said, key roles in direct consumer brands, these spaces we're in, is going to be ability to tell a story, marketing, and ability to deliver on that, ops and tech. Three areas of business you're going to have to cover.
Dhruv, is really it's really you're surprisingly focused and surprisingly refreshing. The fact that you've got these things worked out. Do you read a lot? Where does this kind of clarity come from?
I don't know. I think I meditate every morning.
Oh
That
wow.
probably helps. But no, it's. I don't think I have it all figured out. I think there's a lot that we're figuring out every single day, and I think the route is more. We end up trying things, see what works, do more of that, and do less of what doesn't. And then fortunate to be connected with and talking to really smart folks all the time. So I think your circle of influence and who you end up exposing yourself to frequently ends up affecting the quality of your thought.
Wow, those are, I mean, like I said, those are some very, very clear and very, very compelling thoughts. Again, Dhruv, what I would encourage the audience as we go through the next portion of the program is ask any questions. I think this you've got a guy who's got cross-border experience. You've got somebody that understands, direct to consumer, has run B2B, has run a factory, is part of a listed company, runs a family office. I think that's a lot of varied experience, and I think there's some very interesting questions that obviously I have been able to go through. But if anybody else would like to ask any questions, feel free to put it down in the comment section. I will take it hopefully at the end of rapid fire. We've got about 8 minutes to go to for an hour. So, but before we get in there, Dhruv, I believe there's some an irresistible offer that you've got for everybody tuning in today.
Yeah, I think just something for the viewers here. We've got a code TPP the money 20, 20% off www.pantproject.com. So something that anyone who wants to try out a pair can use.
So, guys, I would definitely grab that offer. I have thankfully been a owner and a very proud owner of these pants, and they're very very comfortable. So if you're looking for a nice pair of pants for yourself, doesn't matter where you are in the country, go on to the pantproject.com and choose yourself a pant, choose yourself a color, and when you're checking out, just type in TPP the money 20 in the
That's not
coupon
case
code
sensitive,
section.
so it can be in any case. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. And then you get 20% off. And I am 100% sure that you're going to love these pants. And like Dhruv said earlier, you send in your measurements and they will customize it to make it a perfect fit. So once again, TPP the money 20 on the pantproject.com. So, as you know, Dhruv, the next section, the rapid fire, we've got about I think about 9 or 10 questions to ask you. Whatever first comes to mind, you just go ahead and say it, and that could be some food for thought for maybe to go a little bit deeper into. So, are you ready for rapid fire? Should we go ahead?
Let's go.
Perfect. So, first question: Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and Donald Trump are coming home for dinner. What's the plan?
Um, that's sushi.
Why would you say sushi?
uh,
I just know
I,
Donald
I
Trump
would be
doesn't eat
I
sushi.
just the thought of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Gates coming home for dinner has me dumbfounded. So many questions to ask them.
Um, but I knew you
I
said
just have a
sushi because
conversation with them.
Trump won't eat it.
I just have a conversation with them. So much to ask.
What's one mistake you believe every individual must avoid?
I don't think there's really any that you must avoid. I think, yeah, most of them you learn from. So I don't think there's any one that you really must avoid.
Who's your favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero. Batman.
Why?
You know, think, yeah, just honestly, not that much of a superhero guy, but Batman, I'd say, is someone that I really enjoyed watching all of his movies.
Is it also because he's more relatable to the fact that he does
Yeah,
so many
more
things just like you?
relatable and you know, doing good. Uh,
What's let's see, let's take something that you will really have to think about now. So the Peter Thiel question, the question that what is one thing that you know to be true, but very few people agree with you on this?
I don't know if very few people agree with me, but something I know to be true is that you know, no matter how difficult it is, it's always best to just spit out the truth as rawly and truly as you can. And I think people know that, but often struggle with it because it's not easy to do.
What you're saying is that if when it comes
Like radical
when you
candor, radical
yeah.
candor, hard to do.
Mhm.
You may know in your heart of hearts that it's the best, but
Correct.
definitely easier to say and harder to live.
Yeah, taking the road that you should, but the road less traveled, right?
Yeah,
So like,
and you know in your gut that that's the way it should be, but it's yeah.
what who is one Indian founder who you believe is absolutely killing it right now?
And I have I have a bunch, uh, but
But name one. The
yeah,
one you
a
think is
huge.
absolutely killing it.
I don't know about absolutely killing it. It's different. It's not just on scale of business or what they're doing, but huge fan of what Rohan is building at Epigamia. I think building an amazing consumer brand. May not be everyone's pick, but Rohan Mitchinary Epigamia is doing amazing.
No, I think it's a very difficult category that he's dominating, right? Because
Yeah,
obviously you've got the incumbents that have tons and tons of capital and recognition, the ability to obviously buy up billboards and TV space, and in that he's created a brand for himself. That's a very interesting pick. So, is there like what skills or traits do you think someone needs to build a successful company?
again depends on the category, but I think non-negotiable is the grit and determination to just keep going when things are difficult. I think part of it too is the hard skills you can learn, so it's going to be all the soft ones. I think anyone smart is going to pick up the hard skills over time, so it's going to be the soft ones. But I think ability to be uh, empathy for the team and really bring people along in the journey, attract the best talent. That's going to be another differentiator long term.
Attract. I definitely agree. I think the last one is probably the most important, right? That the
Yeah,
ability to attract good talent, right? And I think part of that is also that recognizing the areas in which you're not good, right? That you're those are not your areas of competence, right? And being able to hire in those specific areas, I think that is a very key key thing that like a very key trait
yeah.
when you're building a company, right? To understand where you're lacking and to be able to attract people in those areas and being able to let them take over the responsibility and run with it. So I've got like three questions left. Well, let's take it from the toughest to the easiest. The toughest one would be that one thing that you would like to change about the Indian startup ecosystem.
Um, I don't know. I get a feeling here that you often. Um, I like to change the fact that you don't have enough entrepreneurs, from tier two, tier three cities. It's changing. I see it changing. But in the Indian, I think the U.S. ecosystems, deep. You have entrepreneurs from Austin, Texas, and Denver, Colorado, and it's a deep ecosystem. I think in India it was limited just to a few cities and entrepreneurs that come from certain backgrounds. I'd love to change that and have entrepreneurs springing up across the country and have it be easy to raise capital across the country too.
Interesting. No, I think you're right, but I do see that trend changing in the sense that I think a lot of the entrepreneurs that we see, even in the Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi circuit, they're not traditionally from those cities, right? But I do believe that you're now seeing, but they had to come here because the talent was here, the innovation was here. But I think one of the boons of the pandemic, if I can call it, has been that yeah, some of the entrepreneurs have been able to go back to their home cities, and they've been able to create companies, and while not having to worry about attracting talent to major cities. I think that's how that evolves and how that plays out over the next couple of years is to be seen. But I completely agree with you. I think we need more from the east. We need more from central India. I think there's huge parts of the country that are not represented in startup cap tables, and I think it's very important that they contribute. Second last question: what is one lesson that you had to learn the hard way?
So, there's been so many. No, I think we actually it's probably been the hardest. Um, they should. Um, yeah, there've been a few. I think the ones that have hurt me the most have been decisions where we've wanted to do things, ended up doing them, and just done them later because I've second guessed myself. And so I think the lesson that I want to learn the hard way is, when I have a strong gut intuition that this is, something we want to do and an area, where we want to go, just don't second guess yourself. And the time you spend debating is probably better spent, just doing it.
Very interesting. That instead of debating over it, just go ahead and test it, right? And
Yeah,
then
either dump the
see
idea
those.
or just go ahead and test it. But
Yeah,
but constantly, make a decision either way, and then just yeah.
interesting. Very very interesting answer. I completely agree. I think we spend more time thinking about change or thinking about executing something than the time it takes to probably execute it. And just it's something that you learn as you go along. Once you get
Yeah,
into that kind of a
the,
mindset
the
where you're
regrets been
executing all
more
the
so
time.
you could have taken 3 shots in the time you took to,
Correct.
think about whether this was the right shot or the other one, and
It's,
definitely
it's
something that better with over time. Yeah,
yeah, the famous Wayne Gretzky quote, right? Like you lose 100% of the shots you don't take. So just
yeah,
keep on go ahead and keep shooting. Dhruv, I know you read, so I'm going to ask you for three book recommendations as the last question.
yeah, fantastic. You know, I so many that come to mind, but Zero to One, Peter Thiel, definitely one that's a startup classic, for me. I think probably the book that's had the most impact on me there. I think Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb.
Mhm.
Concept of really building systems that benefit from chaos as opposed to break down when stress is put on them. And the third one would actually just not be a startup book, but I think the Bhagavad Gita just has a lot of depth to it, spiritually, and something that's helped me, be very centered. So
That's a
that's one
very
recommendation.
interesting book at the end, Dhruv. How often do you read the Bhagavad Gita?
I try to read it every Sunday, at least parts or sections of it.
Very, very interesting. I've had, by the way, it's been an hour and 5 minutes. I don't think we've realized that we're over time, but it was a great conversation, Dhruv. I mean, before we must shut down for the night, can what's something you want to leave the audience with?
I think for anyone in the audience that's debating whether they want to go out, be entrepreneurs, not do it, should they not? As I said, just go out and give it your best shot, and you'll find a lot of help and support, through the journey. If you really believe in an idea, just go out there and give it a shot. Uh, just make sure you're going to come out of it alive, and then give it your best shot. You'll probably regret not doing it otherwise.
I completely agree. I think Dhruv, you close out the night really well. I mean, if you're thinking about it, if that's something that you cannot go to or you cannot, even keep yourself concentrating on the job you're doing because you're so looking forward to being an entrepreneur. You've got an idea that must be executed. just go ahead and test it out. Go ahead and make it happen. And hey, what's the worst that could happen, right? You might miss, and you go back to your old job, and things are going to still be fine. But the worst thing you could do is not take a shot. And so, thank you so much, Dhruv. Thank you so much for the amazing insights tonight. I know there were so many facets of the story, and I tried, touching upon and getting deep into every single one of them. But I think we might have to call you back for a future episode. We can go a little deeper, maybe into the PAN project. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you much. And just before we end for the night, tonight, Dhruv has been supremely, generous in giving us a code. So if you're looking for a nice pair of pants, right, just go to the pantproject.com, use the code TPP 20 at when you're checking out. Again, that is not case sensitive, and you get 20% off the first pair of pants that you buy from the Pant Project. And I assure you, once you bought one, you will be coming back and buying more. And on that note, thank you very much, everyone. We've got one more episode happening next week before we take a 2 week break. We'll see you again next week, next Thursday, 9 p.m. Have a great weekend. Good night.
Thank you. Cheers.